Hey guys, welcome to Through the Bible Verse by Verse, a plain and simple study of the entire Bible, book by book, chapter by chapter, and verse by verse. We are in the book of Joshua. Joshua's mission, purpose, will be to bring the people into the land, the promised land. He will divide the land up, and then and he will fulfill that. So now I'll get right into it. Joshua chapter 1. He says, now after the death of Moses, the Lord's servant, the Lord spoke to Joshua the son of Nun, who had served Moses. Now again, as we remember, Joshua was chosen by God. He was Moses' minister for well over 40 years. For 40 years, well, a little over 40 years. He will be a outstanding leader, warrior, okay? He will be a person of godly character, okay? So he will lead the people. Verse 2 says, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now I want to stop because we talked about this in the intro last time. This is revelation, right? From their perspective, all they know is Moses went up into the mountain. They never saw Moses again. Now through revelation, God is revealing Moses is dead. He's giving information. Moses, my servant, is dead. Now he is saying this because to solidify the transfer of leadership. Now, and I think this is important because what we're going to see in this first chapter is God is not going to, or I should put it like this way, Joshua will not stand in the shadow of Moses. Kind of a sidebar note here. Just a sidebar note. I do see sometimes a lot of ministries that are built upon personalities. Okay, they're built upon personalities. And then when these personalities pass away, and it's kind of interesting because I'm trying to be careful right here because the intent here is not to throw shade on anyone. Because sometimes the transfers of leadership is good, sometimes the transfer of leadership is not good. I'm talking about in churches, right? So, some of you that kind of experience that will know. But sometimes you'll see these when these transfer the leadership, and especially if and we're talking about usually the founder, but it could be a pastor that was a good pastor of a church, that the next person who comes along, it's hard for him to get out of that shadow. And even now you see that this is why you see, and this is kind of a whole different issue, but this is why you even see ministers replaying old tapes, old videos, old shows, right? Old sermons. Now, what we're going to see here is God saying Moses is dead. Joshua, you're the leader. Now move on. And I think this would be some wise advice to pastors who come after, whether it's a founding pastor or a good pastor or a popular pastor or a famous pastor, that if God has called you to that office, say, hey, okay, the former pastor is gone. He's out of the picture. He's dead, retired, fired, or whatever. And the new pastor, let's move on. Okay, because I can tell, I'm thinking about one pastor, and whether you like him or not in terms of his theology, and that's not a bad criticism, but he did grow the church to the largest church in the country because he took it in a different direction. Now again, you can debate his theology, but and his father was a great man in his own right. But this particular son who's taken over for the pastor has tripled the church in size, and certainly now his church is worldwide in world renown. I can say he's the largest church. So my point is, as we see here with Moses, he's telling Moses, hey, move on, Moses, move on. Moses, verse 2 again, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now you, notice this, and all of the people prepared to cross over the Jordan to the promised land I'm giving the Israelites. So now he's telling them, it's time for you to go in. Verse 3, I've given you every place where the sole of your foot treads, just as I promised Moses. Your territory will be from the wilderness of Lebanon to the great Euphrates River, in all the land of the Hittites, and west of the Mediterranean Sea. Now I want to stop here. I'm going to give you just a quick glance of that. Excuse me. Just a quick glance here. As you can see, some of this land right here. Also, let me see if I can put up another map. Because notice he said the Hittites. Let me see if I got another map right here. Does this one say Syria? This was one later. Yes. Okay. That's kind of what I wanted to see because he mentions. Notice he mentions that. Notice where he says the Hittites. So notice where this land goes. The Hittites. This is just some of the, we will come back later on, become very well of Assyria, Nineveh, all of those lands right there. I just want you to see where this land, as these maps point out here. All right. You also note Babylon. All right. Just kind of give us a little picture there to show you what the land God is giving them. Okay. Verse 5, no one will be able to stand against you as long as you live. I will be with you just as I was with Moses. I will not leave you or forsake you. And I'm going to read just the first thing here, verse 6. Be strong and very courageous. I read on it. For you will distribute the land I swore to their fathers to give them as an inheritance. Now remember, as I said, this is Joshua's purpose, right? This is his purpose right here, that he was going to give them the land. But I want you to notice he tells Joshua to be strong, and he's strengthening Joshua's faith by telling him, I'm going to be with you just as I was with Moses, right? I am going to be with you just as I was with Moses. And he said, I will not leave you nor forsake you. Now, God is not just saying this to be, to fill in words. He is saying this because Joshua needed this. And if you can imagine Joshua stepping into the leadership of a nation, and at the time it's believed that there could be anywhere from 5 to 6 million Israelites. Okay, so the whole responsibility of this nation is on him, and God is telling him, I'm going to be with you. All right, and he says, you will. Come on, where are you at here? Get you out the way here. All right, so he says, verse 6 again, be strong and courageous, for I will distribute the land I swore to their fathers to give them as an inheritance. Verse 7, above all, be strong and very courageous to carefully observe the whole instructions my servant Moses commanded you. Do not turn from it to the right or to the left, so that you may have success wherever you go. And so herein is now the success. Herein is the success right here. obey the commandments that I gave Moses. Don't turn from the left or to the right. Now you remember in the book of Deuteronomy, he says that the kings and the leaders were to keep a copy of the book of Deuteronomy, and they were to read from it every day. They were to, not every day, they were to read from it, right? All the days of their life is what he says. And he's telling them right here, this is the key to success. If you want to be successful, right here, this is how you do it. Look at verse 8. This book of instruction must not depart from your mouth. You are to recite it day and night, so that you may carefully observe everything written in it, for then you will prosper and succeed in whatever you do. And when I commanded you, be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. And I'm going to go back to verse 8 because there's something I think this is extremely important here as a principle. This book of instruction, reading from the Old King James, the book of the law, notice he said, must not depart from your mouth. You are to recite it day and night. Now, one of the things I think is very important, even as a principle that works for us today, if you ever notice, when you sin, and you ask yourself, man, why did I do that? Why did I blow it like that? And it's kind of simple. You sin because your mind, and this is always we're going to see throughout scriptures, one of the reasons why God gives us his word. His word does what? It changes our minds, right? It conditions our mind so that we can what? Observe. Notice that term, observe. So notice what he says here, that if I'm reciting the word daily, I'm reading the word, I'm reciting the word, what's going to happen? I'll be able to observe the word. Let's translate that even more. So just think about this. You think about the last time you did something extremely foolish, and you go, man, why didn't I think before I spoke? Why didn't I think before I did something worse? Why didn't I? Right? Because you didn't observe. So now, let's say, for example, if as you obey this word, and he says, recite the word, confess the word, speak the word, then what will happen? Now I get this thought. And this thought says, go slap someone. Okay? So there's the thought, and it says, go slap someone. Maybe they say something to you. They said something about you or a loved one. Yes, y'all can read between the lines right here at the time of this, recording right here. Much later, those who may see this, you're not going to understand what I'm talking about. But those at the time of this, you can almost know exactly what I'm saying. But let's suppose the person now, they saw this. Now watch this. So they and they regret terribly that they did this. They regret terribly. Oh my God. Ooh, right? And no judgment, because again, I could be that person, right? So, but suppose they had been reciting the word all the time. So all of a sudden now, that person said something, and then the events as they unfolded, all of a sudden he jumps up, but the word would have popped up in there, right? Don't do it. Don't slap, right? Not worth doing it. My point is, so then he can observe to not do that, not take vengeance out, not do violence, right? And spare himself a lot of heartache. All right? And so we could do the same thing. My point is that, notice he said, recite the word, and what happens? That as we recite the word, right, is in our minds to observe, to do, right? So whatever your temptation, as you cite the word, when you out of impulse, right, want to act on it, the word would be how you can counteract that. All right, let's go back. So verse 10 says, Then Joshua commanded the officers of the people, go through the camp and tell the people, get provisions ready for yourself. Within 3 days you will be crossing the Jordan to go in and take possession of the land the Lord your God has given you to inherit. Then Joshua said to the Reubenites and Gadites and half tribe of Manasseh. Now you remember they chose to take their possession on the side of the Jordan they're on now, but they also agreed that they would cross the Jordan. The fighting men would cross the Jordan, and again, this is going to be about a 5 years trek for them. Verse 13. Remember what Moses, the Lord's servant, commanded you when he said, "The Lord your God will give you rest, and he will give you this land. Your wives, young children, and livestock will remain in the land Moses gave you on this side of the Jordan, but your fighting men must cross over in battle formation ahead of your brothers and help them until the Lord gives your brothers rest as he has given you, and they too possess the land the Lord your God is giving them. You may return to the land of your inheritance and take possession of what Moses, the Lord's servant, gave you on the east side of Jordan." Then they answered Joshua, "Everything you have commanded us we will do, and everywhere you send us we will go. We will obey you just as we obeyed Moses in everything. And may the Lord your God be with you as he was with Moses. Anyone who rebels against your orders and does not obey your words in all that you command him will be put to death. Above all, be strong and courageous." So, again, so this would take about 5 years. So just think about this: when the fighting men of Manasseh, the half tribe of Manasseh and the Gadites and the Reubenites, they take their inheritance on this side of Jordan. It's kind of interesting. I'm going to go back to this map quickly and see if I can spot something. Where is Gad? Now notice down. I'm trying to. Okay, so if you look at the map on the north, on the left. I'm sorry. And if you look what Reuben is at, so you look at Reuben, and then you look at Gad, right there, right by the Dead Sea. Okay. So half of those two tribes stayed on the other side of the Jordan River. Half of them. But the other tribe of Gad, and the other tribe of Reubenites, that's the land they possess. Okay, if you're not into maps, okay. But they will cross over, and then they will fight with Israel. And as I said, the book of Joshua is about a 5-year kind of journey for them to cross over and then start taking the land. And then the end of Joshua, the last several chapters of Joshua will be dividing up that land. And then we're going to see that they will then cross over and go back home and take their possession on the opposite side of Jordan. So it's kind of interesting to hear God again strengthening them and saying, "Hey, be of courage, be of good courage. Okay, don't be afraid. I will be with you." All right, guys. I will see you in the next study, chapter 2. All right, see you next study.